You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game. And we will be doing politics this evening because we have as our guest Cook County Commissioner Tony Peraica, who would like to be your state's attorney if you're living in Cook County. He would like to be the state's attorney of Cook County. He is on the ballot on the primary election February 5th. He is a Republican, of course, running in the Republican primary, and he is unopposed. On the Democratic side, as we'll be talking about, that's a different story. There are 6 Democrats running to be the Democratic nominee for state's attorney of Cook County. Talking about Tony Peraica, he is 50 years old. He came here 38 years ago from Croatia. He was orphaned, didn't speak a word of English, and now he speaks a lot of English. Anybody who's heard his campaigns. Got well credentialed in terms of his academics, went to the University of Illinois, Chicago campus, UIC, learned politics there from some of the best, including Alderman Dick Simpson, who knew something about politics in the early 70s, retired and taught quite a bit to you.
Still there.
Yeah, and when you came here, when Tony came here, it was coming to Bridgeport. If anybody knows politics, it's people in Bridgeport. So he learned it well. Started out as a Democrat. He would say he had an epiphany in 1994 and became a Republican. In '98, he ran as the Republican nominee for Cook County Treasurer. In 2002, he didn't win that race, but in 2002, he was running as Cook County Commissioner, the Republican nominee for Cook County Commissioner, Cook County Board in 2002. And that's a race he did win, running as the 16th District Cook County Commissioner, Cook County Board member, as a Republican. And in that period of '02, before '06, there emerged what was known as the Gang of Four. And an integral member of the Gang of Four on the Cook County Board was Tony Peraica, also Forrest Claypool, also Larry Suffredin, also Mike Quigley. And just quickly, did that change at some point recently?
Yes,
that
it
Gang
has.
of Four?
Yes, it has.
Who left and who came on?
Mike Quigley has left the coalition and often votes with Todd Stroger and has supported his budget, for example.
That's your view. He's no longer with the Gang of Four.
Yes, some of his chief of staff went to be the first deputy at the juvenile detention facility, and he has been able to work his way into the Todd Stroger administration and their team.
And who did you recruit to complete the Gang of Four? You got a 4th member?
We have
now?
Tim Schneider, who replaced Carl Hansen, Republican from the western part of the northwest part of Cook County.
And not to get too distracted, but just to see some nexus, Tony Peraica claims to be a reformer, right?
I am.
You say you're a reformer on the Cook County Board, right?
That's right.
Okay, and so you've been battling against tax increases with the Gang of Four, which actually became sort of the Gang of Nine. You got 5 others to join you, right?
We have Republicans uniformly opposing,
5
Republicans opposing tax increases, in particular the 2% sales tax increase, as well as other tax increases that Todd Stroger has proposed. And of course, we have 3 of the 4 members of the Gang of Four, the horsemen of the apocalypse.
Claypool and Suffredin.
Claypool, Suffredin, and
Quigley joins you on this, though, right?
Quigley joined on that 2% opposition, and also we have Roberto Maldonado providing the 9th vote.
So with 9, you've got a majority, and you can prevent, if you want, a tax increase from Todd Stroger, right?
That's the consensus on the board, not to have a 2% sales tax increase on top of a $530 million RTA tax, 1/4% sales tax increase that just passed in the House and the governor said was going to sign. And of course, the real estate transfer tax, which is part of that package, another $130 million if the city council approves it, on top of the $700 million tax increase that Mayor Daley passed for the city '08 budget. So we have taxes upon taxes upon taxes.
So you're trying to get the bounce from being a reformer, you're calling yourself a reformer on the Cook County Board, and you're trying to get that bounce to bounce right into the state's attorney's chair, to be the state's attorney of Cook County, and to be a reformer in that.
Let's be specific what reform means, what a reformer is. In my mind, it's someone who advocates for smaller government, lower taxes, the elimination of corruption, and for transparency in government. To me, that's a reformer, a person who believes in good government. And I think that no one has a monopoly on virtue. There are people who are reformers on the Democratic side as well as on the Republican side. And one has to really do their homework to find out what does that person stand for. Not only what they say, but what have they done while in office to advance good government.
There's 6 Democrats running for state's attorney in the Democratic primary. Any of those you'd call a reformer?
No.
Yeah. First assistant, Bob Milan. He's the first assistant to State's Attorney Dick
Right.
Devine.
Both-
He's been there. He's been in that office for 21 years. He says he's a career prosecutor.
Right.
He says this office, State's Attorney, shouldn't be a politician, somebody who's going for the next rung on the ladder. Why isn't Bob Milan a reformer?
Bob Milan has been there under Dick Devine for his entire career. Both he and Anita Alvarez are part of the combine within the State's Attorney's office.
Anita Alvarez, people should know, has been on the show. She's the chief deputy, so you've got State's Attorney Dick Devine. His first assistant is Bob Milan. Next in line is Anita Alvarez as the chief deputy, right?
That's right.
She's also been there all her career, right?
Correct. Both of them are career State's attorneys, prosecutors, and I think in both cases they do a good job prosecuting criminal cases. But the State's Attorney's office is an administrative office. It's a lot more than just being a prosecutor. You have to also have experience in the civil area, which I do, having practiced law for 25 years. And you also serve as a chief legal advisor to the county board president, Todd Stroger, which is something that I would welcome and love
You and
doing.
Todd getting along so well? Yes.
I would keep an eye on the situation to make sure that the laws, criminal and civil, are complied with, and that for example, compliance with the Freedom of Information Act requests, the enforcement of the election laws, the enforcement of the Open Meetings Act. All of these things are important, and they're in the civil area, as you know, and also defending malpractice cases, workman's compensation, personal injury, property damage cases, excess for police for 1983 actions. These are all civil defense matters that are also the responsibility of the state's attorney. And someone who's been a prosecutor for 20 years simply doesn't know anything about defending these cases.
Well, is it fair for Milan or Alvarez to turn it around and say, you, Tony Peraica, don't know anything about the criminal side because you haven't been prosecuting felonies?
I've been defending them. And
have you? How many
oh, yeah.
felonies have you taken to trial
gosh.
and to verdict?
Dozens.
and
Dozens over
dozens.
25 years, yes.
But what do you know is about a prosecutor of those
Well,
matters?
this office is not about prosecuting again. This office is about being able to get a budget together. This is an office that employs 1,700 people. It has an annual budget of $170 million each year, and it's about someone who knows the workings of the county board and the various allegiances and can get a budget through and can make sure that the office functions on all pistons across these various areas of responsibility. Prosecution of criminal cases being one of them, and perhaps most important one, with 60,000 felony cases being filed every year.
But half of those 1,700 people you're overseeing, if you are the state's attorney, are lawyers.
Right,
Do they
900.
need some inspiration? If you tell them to go out and try a case, do they need some inspiration from the person at the top that he actually or she actually knows how to try that kind of a case? You may not be trying the case as state's attorney, although State's Attorney Devine did try a major case
Right.
recently, okay, and he won. But do you
I know
need
how to try a criminal case. I've done many.
Would you do that? Would you step in and actually prosecute a major felony?
I
as
wouldn't
state's
exclude
attorney?
it, but that wouldn't be my
Could you do
first
it?
priority.
Could you do it?
Yes, I could.
You can, and so you can tell these folks what to do even though you haven't done it.
Right, right.
You got the credibility to do that. Let's round it out.
Let's be also honest with the process. I mean, prosecuting an important case, a major criminal case, is a team effort. So you have a number of attorneys who are involved, prosecutors, forensic auditors, support staff. It isn't a one-person operation. Any major trial, as you know, has various layers of support staff that assist the first chair in trying that case. So I know how to work within the team environment, and certainly I could try a felony case if I had to and prosecute it to completion.
But you know, to be fair here, and people will raise this certainly in the general election. You'll be facing one of these six. We don't know who, but somebody might raise, depending on their experience. Mm-hmm. You know, you're talking about overseeing 1,700 people. What's the biggest office you've overseen to date?
I've been a county commissioner on the board for 6 years now. I've been a member of the Cook County Litigation Committee that has really approved and monitored all of the cases that the state's attorney's office handles that we pay judgments or awards on as part of the Finance Committee appropriation for settlements or awards. So I've been there working with the state's attorneys on the board. I've been working on their budget for the last 6 years as a commissioner, and I've been practicing in the federal and state courts for the last 25 years, doing dozens of criminal cases.
But you don't have substantial executive experience overseeing matters. You've been in a small law firm most of your life, would that be correct?
I have had up to 14 employees at my peak in
14.
three
We're talking
locations.
1,700 though.
It can be handled.
Okay.
You know, Devine had no experience when he came in. Jack O'Malley had no experience doing that when he came in. You can handle the
But
job.
has Devine done a good job? What would you give him? He's been
No,
there 12
I don't
years.
think he's done a good
give
job
Give
at
that
all.
office, how would you rate it now? A, B, C, D, F, what?
I would give him a C.
C.
Yes.
Bob Milan gave it an A+. You think
Wonderful.
he was being too generous?
Yes.
All right, so but maybe
But
makes your
let me
point.
add to the point of administrative skills. You know, I am a citizen politician. I run still a law office with 8 employees. I handle a county office with a district office with 4 employees. I am out there handling a campaign with probably 10 employees and numerous volunteers. So I know how to balance a schedule in an 18-hour workday. I've done that for years and years.
Let's go to some issues. Ghosts of Daley and Devine on this ballot, because the torture issue is in play here, certainly in the Democratic primary. You know what I mean about the torture
Yes, I
issue?
do.
Accused defendants who were tortured, it's well known, people working with and under John Burge.
Right.
And the question is, Daley, Dick Daley, the current mayor, Richard Daley, he was the state's attorney from what, 1980 to 1989, right?
That's correct.
And his first assistant was Dick Devine from 80 to 82 or 83.
Right.
Did these folks know what was going on? And also, perhaps worse, is it your view that if they, even if they weren't involved in with, or knew what was going on and what it was, have they covered up what was going on for a while? Devine and Daley, are they on the ballot?
Yes, I think that the torture of African American citizens of the city of Chicago, County of Cook, that occurred in the 2nd District between 1979 and 1984 is clearly one of the important issues in this race. I spoke to Superintendent of Police, Mr. Brezek, who was then the police superintendent, and he indicated that he received a letter from Dr. Reba, who was then in charge at the 2016 California Cermak Clinic, who told him that these men were tortured, that these were not accidents. That letter was forwarded to then State's Attorney, now Mayor Richard Daley, and his first deputy, Dick Devine, and his second deputy, who is now a judge, Bill Kunkel. And clearly, they did not investigate. They punted, they covered up, they swept it under the rug. And just recently, as you know, the City of Chicago City Council approved a $20 million settlement for 4 of these men who were tortured into confessing to crimes that they didn't commit. And if you look at the risk assessments, we're looking at anywhere between $200 and $300 million that is anticipated to be paid in the future for legal defense, settlements, and judgments that will flow from these torture instances. And I think that it's clearly something that the next state's attorney needs to look at. State's attorney cannot be an apologist for one or the other side. He's not there to sweep things under the rug. You need to investigate it, you need to prosecute it, and you need to make sure that there's justice being given to those who were tortured into confessing to these crimes that they didn't commit.
Didn't the people who investigated this under the report just conclude that the statute of limitations has run on anybody who might be charged?
In my opinion, the entire investigation is marred by kind of incestuous relationships. This is a small club. You have essentially 4 families running the entire city of Chicago, County of Cook.
Who are those 4 families?
Well, the Daleys, the Madigans, the Hines, the Strogers, and they have been kind of running the whole political operation here. They have appointed judges, elected judges, including the Chief Judge, Mr. Biebel. That clearly, I think, raises a lot of questions more than it answers. And I think the state's attorney of Cook County should be someone who is independent, who will not look the other way because of political affiliation or racial affiliation or ethnic affiliation. You should apply the law equally across the board.
Alderman Howard Brookins, is he independent? Would he push this forward if he were the
No,
nominee?
I don't think so.
Why is he not independent?
Because I think that he would not be able to raise these issues in a manner that would provide for a solution and prosecution and then solution of the problem. I think that clearly he has some problems of his own in terms of not paying taxes, being prosecuted for not paying his rent, not maintaining his properties, not paying his copier bill.
We'll have him back to address those. What about Alderman Tom Allen? Is he independent?
Well, Tom Allen on the campaign trail.
He's on the ballot. He's running in the Democratic primary for
Tom
state's
Allen
attorney.
was appointed by Mayor Daley to be the alderman. He has voted with the mayor on just about everything, 99.9% of the times. On the campaign trail, he talks about how Mayor Daley is doing a great job and how he's close to the mayor, and Mayor Daley is constantly on his lips. And I anticipate that perhaps an endorsement is in the works for Mr. Allen by Mayor Daley. So clearly, there's no independence there.
Did he get an important endorsement today?
He was endorsed by the Tribune today.
He was endorsed by the Tribune.
Correct.
Tribune must think he's independent, right? Or is the Tribune
They
part of
didn't
the
say
cabal?
that.
Are they part of the cabal you're talking about?
No, I don't think Tribune is part of the cabal. They're looking at the best of the bad lot, and they decided on Tom Allen.
What
and
about
they
Cook
gave
County?
their rationale.
Your colleague, Cook County Commissioner Larry Sufferton, part of the Gang of Four. Is he independent?
No, I think Larry Sufferton, Commissioner Sufferton, is part of the regular Democratic organization. He has been all over the lot. He swings with the wind and will say things and then do something else.
You like his views on taxes. He sticks with you on opposing tax increases.
Larry Sufferton is a walking conflict of interest, having lobbied for gambling, tobacco, cigarettes, alcohol, and clearly pharmaceuticals.
And also lobbied for major philanthropic and cultural institutions in Chicago. So he's got a full a full set of groups for which he's lobbied.
Larry Sufferton is part of the establishment here. He's connected to everybody. He knows everybody, and if you listen to him, he knows everything as well.
All right. So you don't see any independence in the Democratic primary
not.
coming out of there, whoever the nominee is. Okay. Chicago cops, have they gone wild? Does the state's attorney's office need to do more to control them? You
Yes,
had
it
that
does.
barmaid incident. You had the
Right.
four businessmen, people who were getting beat up by off-duty cops. You have the special ops problems. Are they changing it with a new superintendent of Chicago Police, or does the state's attorney need to be doing more here?
I think the state's attorney needs to do more, and I think that there are clearly changes that are going to be the result of the implementation and enforcement of the Shackman consent decree within the police department, and also as a result of the installation of the new police superintendent who comes from the FBI and doesn't have Jody Weiss, who doesn't have the same connections and is not part of the political clique.
So that's
here.
a good sign. You'd
It
applaud
is a
the
good
mayor
sign.
on that.
And let me
you
say,
applaud the mayor for that, right?
I don't know Mr. Weiss, and jury is out as far as I'm concerned. His actions will speak a lot louder than his words. And for someone who's making almost $400,000, I expect.
I think it's 300,000, 310.
No, it's 360 or 80.
310, I think.
Well, whatever it is, it's a lot of money, and I expect that he will be on 24/7.
What does the state's attorney make?
See, you're stepping on me again.
I am, but just answer that. What does the state's attorney make?
160, I believe.
Okay, so half as much.
Yes.
Jealous?
No.
All right.
Well, he's serving in a dual capacity as the manager or the superintendent of the 911 center, disaster recovery operation, as well as being a police superintendent. I'm not sure that one person has that many hours in a day, and I think that the mayor made a mistake in giving him this dual responsibility, and he's liable to fall on his face on one of those fronts.
Okay.
So, but let me say also that the Chicago Police
We only have a
Department
half-hour show here.
that has 13,500 police officers, 99% of them are good men and women who try to do their job properly. But there is a clique within the police department of people who have been hired under political, cover.
Well, let's talk about that.
That they are not doing it.
662 policemen who have 10 or more complaints.
Right.
As you know, the city council, or at least 28 aldermen, have filed lawsuit. They want to find out the names of these people and do their own investigation.
Right.
Would you support that? Should those names be released to the city council?
Yes, I think they should be released. I think we should know who these people are.
Should the city council, are they really an investigatory unit? I mean, are they competent to do this kind of investigation, or are they just looking for the names just for show?
It's not a matter of the only city council. Absolutely, as a legislative body and an oversight body, they have a right to that information without question. But I would put their names on the internet as well, and let everyone.
Let everybody know.
That's right. Unless there is a active
These are
case
policemen.
pending.
These are,
Unless there's an
these are only
active case
allegations.
pending unless there's an active case pending or there are some other overriding personal security issues, I think people should know who the abusive officers are. They're not
These are
above the law.
allegations. These are complaints. They haven't been adjudicated to be abusive. Aren't we presumed to be innocent in the United States until shown otherwise?
Yes, you are.
Well, these people have only been alleged. These are complaints. You just said abusive. You don't know that they've been abusive.
Well,
it's an allegation
There's
of
an
abuse.
allegation of abuse,
Okay.
and it's a repetitive allegation of abuse.
All right, and that's
Okay.
enough to put it on the internet.
And I think that those types of situations should be known to the citizens who are paying the salaries of these individuals. And clearly, if you look at the level of investigation and prosecution of police misconduct in other cities, we are way below the norm nationally, and only about 1.5% or 2% of these cases ever result in any prosecution. So you do have some of the small minority within the police department who have engaged in stealing drugs from drug dealers and reselling them to the kids on the streets. These are police officers who have abused citizens both on and off duty,
And the state's
who have
attorney's
taken
office,
bribes.
state's attorney's office is prosecuting some of these people, right? I mean,
Some
you
of
would
them.
concede that.
Some of them. There needs to be more of a proactive approach where the state's attorney is actively working with the police officers, particularly new classes that are coming in, to try to raise their level of awareness as to what's expected.
We got to go over to guns. Do we need more gun control? Do we need more laws than we currently have in Cook County?
No, I think that we have...
Current laws, you got any
Current
problems with
laws
the current
are-
laws?
no,
or they,
no, I don't.
Oh, you don't have any problems with the current laws, but they're enough. You don't need more laws.
Correct.
You don't need a statewide ban on assault weapons. You
No,
wouldn't
I don't.
advocate for that.
I don't think we do.
You wouldn't advocate for a limitation of having only one gun purchased, say, per month. Or would
no,
you support
I
that?
think there are collectors who buy guns for collection purposes, and I think the problem with the additional laws that every legislative session produces is because every legislative session, which is every 2 years, the members of the state legislature have to run for re-election, and they all want to be tough on crime. You get more laws, and the old laws are not even being enforced. It's not people who are causing these harms; it's the weapons themselves in the wrong hands.
So you believe in what the NRA says, that guns don't kill people, people kill people? Would you subscribe
People
to that?
kill people.
Okay.
That's correct.
Would you say more guns, less crime? Actually, more guns might help and less crime?
Well, in some areas, that may be in fact true. Yes.
Say Chicago, a person can't possess a gun now. It's illegal unless you're a law enforcement officer. Would you like to see that change? Should people be allowed to, say, own guns, keep them in their homes so they could protect themselves if
Yes.
bad guys came?
I believe that. I think that the law passed by the city of Chicago and other cities, Washington, D.C., is probably unconstitutional, and the United States Supreme Court will opine on that point very soon.
Somebody's walking, say it's a female, she may be undersized, she may be at a disadvantage to a bad guy, she may want to own a gun, so if she's in a bad area in Chicago, she can keep it in her purse, and the perp would be guessing, does she have a gun or not? It's called concealed carry. Would you favor that?
I think in a large metropolitan area, I would not support concealed carry. And if one has it in the house, that's one thing. If you have it locked up in your car, that's another thing. But to have it on the person, you walk around with a weapon, and you're not a member of the law enforcement community, I would not support that.
But in your home, in your car, it's
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
If you have a permit?
Correct.
Okay.
Obviously, you passed all of the other requirements, yes.
Diversity. Do we need to be, does the State's Attorney's Office need to have greater diversity?
Without a doubt.
I think now it's at about 7% African Americans in terms
6
of attorneys and 5% Hispanic.
It's
Is that enough?
6% African American and 4%.
So 10%. Say
Hispanic,
that is,
right.
what should it be? Give me a number.
Well, it should be higher. I don't think that one should establish a percentage, but the office should
Suffredin
be
says
reflective.
20%. Do you disagree with him?
I don't know that even that's sufficient. When you have
Might be
a
higher.
population, it could be even higher.
But you don't know
absolutely.
you don't want to establish a number. You just
No,
say
I don't
more.
think that we should have a number. I think that the office, which is a second largest prosecutorial office here in the state of Illinois, should be reflective of the community. And I don't think that we should have any specific percentages. But when Dick Devine says, for example, or Bob Mylan says that there aren't enough qualified African American attorneys in the county to fill those assistant state's attorney positions, I find that incredible.
Okay, they ought to be doing more. Capital punishment. Would you lift the moratorium on capital punishment today? As I think Bob Mylan says, I have an area of agreement there.
I would support lifting the moratorium on capital punishment, and I would support capital punishment in the instances where most heinous crime crimes have been committed.
And you think we've had enough reforms so that it's now reliable when a person is adjudicated to have committed a crime and done it, enough murder, whatever it is, the person has been found to be eligible, and then the jury has found they should receive capital punishment? You're saying the reform in the system has been sufficient that you can rely on that verdict?
Yes,
Now,
if there is any doubt, then capital punishment should not be employed.
but you don't have
clearly.
any, do you have any doubt now? Because you just said you want to lift the moratorium, so has there
That's
been
right.
sufficient
I would
reform?
lift the moratorium,
Okay.
but again, a jury of 12 men and women who are hearing that case have the option not to provide for a death penalty if they feel that there isn't overwhelming evidence that this, in fact, heinous crime was committed.
We're going to continue to speak as the credits roll, but I very much want to thank our guest, Tony Peraica. He is a Cook County Commissioner. He's a Republican. He would now like to be State's Attorney of Cook County. He is running in the Republican primary on February 5th unopposed, and he is chomping at the bit to find out who his Democratic opponent would be. Would that be accurate?
I am.
And he will then be running against that person for the fall election in November. Tony, what does it boil down to in the State's Attorney's office? Just give it to me in a nutshell in 30 or 45 seconds. What do you think is wrong and what needs to be corrected by the State's Attorney overall to make this a good office?
You need to take politics out of the State's Attorney's office. You need to put public safety over politics. Politics determine the hiring, promotion, and advancement of people in that office for way too long. It's become a private club. We need to take politics out of the State's
Does that
Attorney's
raise an
office.
important issue we haven't touched on?
Yes.
Has there been a virtual lack of prosecution of public corruption in the city of
None.
Chicago?
None.
People like Don Tomczak,
Right.
people like Zorich, all comes out of the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Right.
Mylan says, we don't understand. They got to focus on murders and rape and robbery. That's
There's
what the
been an
State's Attorney's
overemphasis
Office
on
has
the-
to focus
right.
on.
There's
Is
been
that-
an overemphasis on the self-abusers in the State's Attorney's Office. Among the 60,000 felony cases that were filed in 2004 when the study was done by the American University, 25,000 were drug-related self-abuse cases. And that's way too many, clogging up the system, and we should be focusing our attention on other more serious
Why do you
white-collar
suppose,
crimes.
why isn't there more public corruption in the city of Chicago?
Because it's a club
Why
atmosphere.
isn't there more prosecution of public corruption in the city of Chicago?
Because of politics and a clubby atmosphere, because everyone is connected to somebody else. There is no independence.
So you think they
And
went
I-
easy on Daley and people around him?
No question about it, yes.
Is that because of...